in the summative practical assessment, doing our final presentation on our subject, Jane, who is trying to train for 16 weeks in order to pass the CPAT firefighter physical fitness test. And so, my name is Richard Milnes, and I'll be presenting you guys with some information about this subject and how we're going to help this individual pass and become a firefighter. So we're going to start off by introducing the test itself. The test itself is designed to basically weed out those who don't have the physical capability to perform the job. The test was designed to evaluate and mimic the ergonomic movements of the occupation of being a firefighter. There's 8 tasks, and they're assigned to be completed within a time frame. There's safety standards that are required. You have to have long pants, similar to what mine are, and closed-toe shoes. The course itself is set up in a way that allows for safety as well as ergonomic performance. A candidate will be carried to, or they'll be required to wear the same type of weight during this test that they would be if they were a firefighter in full equipment. So we'll go over just what the test is in a little bit more detail. So the first thing is it starts off with a 3-minute stair climb at a rate of 60 steps per minute. And so what you do is you put on a vest. You're already carrying all the time for the test 50 pounds of what would be simulated equipment. But then what they do is they put another 25 pounds on for this portion of the test. This is to symbolize what it's like to climb the stairs. And so there's a lot of rules, but you basically can't use your hands to support yourself, and you have to walk up the stairs at a rate of 60 cycles per minute, or 60 steps per minute. So after you do that for 3 minutes, you walk 85 feet to what's called a hose drag. And the specifics of the hose drag is you have to run 75 feet to a drum, and then turn an initial 25 feet, and then you kneel down in a select square, and hand over hand you pull in the rope or the hose another 50 feet. The equipment carry is the next thing. They usually use saws, as far as I've seen on the research I've done. So they start off on the shelf. You have to grab 2 objects approximately 30 pounds each. You pull it off the shelf, and then what you do next from there is you walk a set amount. I believe it was 75 feet, and then you walk back and you have to put it onto the shelf. You can't drop it. You can set it down to readjust your grip, but you should be strong enough to carry that. Next, you go 85 feet over to the ladder raise. So you walk up to the ladder, grabbing the top rung, and you go hand over hand over hand, making sure that you get each and every individual rung. You'll get a warning if you miss a rung, but really, if you keep doing that, then the test will fail. And then after you've mounted it onto the wall, there's another ladder preset there that has a fly attached to it. And again, it's hand over hand, pulling action to raise the ladder and then retract the ladder after that. After that, we go into forcible entry. So you walk your 85 feet to a sledgehammer, and you have a certain target. The sledgehammer is 10 pounds. And you hammer on that target until the target is flat, and a buzzer or a sensor will tell you. That's obviously simulating when you have to break down a door. And then you have the search, where you crawl through a maze about 3 feet high and 4 feet wide. And it's about, I believe I put down 2 90-degree turns and a 64 feet total distance. And so that one is just coordination and being able to handle yourself in a claustrophobic state. And then there's a rescue drag. So there's a 165-pound dummy, which you drag around 70 feet around a drum. So it's 35 there and 35 back. And then finally, the last actual task is the ceiling breach and pull. And so you have a hook that the firefighters use, and they go up, and they have to be in a box. They have to have good centered body position, and they push up on a 60-pound target 3 times, and they hook on to a lever that has 80 pounds, and you pull down that 5 times, and you have to do that 4 times. After the first station, after you've done your 3-minute walk, every station in between has an 85-foot walk. And so when we go through the time motion data, really you have 3 minutes of preset exercise and another 2 minutes of preset walking. So you have basically around 5 minutes to get through all of these tasks. So time motion analysis of a successful test. We have a goal here of 10 minutes. Basically what this shows is, something like a breach and pull would be 50 seconds. Something like a hose carry would be about 25 seconds. A power tool walk would be 45 seconds. A ladder lift would be 20 seconds. A forcible entry, 25 seconds. The search is about 35 seconds, and the dummy carry is about 40 seconds. And if you add in the 2 minutes of walking and the 3 minutes of treadmill, that will get our subject to exactly 10 minutes, which would be a successful test. The minimum requirement to pass this test is 10 minutes and 20 seconds. The other thing I put on the time motion analysis here is the different levels of intensity of the workout or of the movements, because they do have varying demands on their intensity. For example, the walking, you are not allowed to run. You will be warned if you start running your 85 feet between each station. So you have to have it at a low intensity. The other thing is, because the 3 minutes of the walking treadmill is preset and it's not something you can do faster or slower, you hopefully have the VO2 max and the ability to keep it at a low intensity if possible. Things like the breach and pull and the dummy carry and even the hose carry, each of those, you want to be going full out for and really maxing out. The same with the forcible entry. You want to be going full out for these movements. Power tool walk, again, is a medium intensity because you can't run with the power tools. You have to walk. You have to take efficient strides. You just have to show the ability and the strength to carry those things. And then the search as well. When you're crawling through that maze, you want to crawl fast, but you want to make sure you have more control. The other thing I put in the time motion analysis is the different level of coordination you need to do these skills well. You want to have good hand-eye coordination. You want to have good agility. Especially you want to have good coordination and sequencing of pulling and sequencing lifting things over your head. So really good, familiarity with your hands. You want to have good balance when you're walking on the treadmill with the extra weight, and you want to be able to move with the extra weight of the equipment on you. That's a little bit about time motion analysis on the tasks. So we'll go over our subject. We'll talk about our subject. Her name is Jane. She's 26 years old. She's 168 centimeters tall, 5'5", 59 kilograms in weight, so about 130 pounds. She's female and was 11:08 in her first test. So we're 48 seconds over our passing. So the question is where are we going to get those 48 to 60 seconds to see to it that we can have our subject pass? We need to evaluate, first of all, our strengths and weaknesses. And so we're going to start with our strengths. What are we working with? What is already what's already working for this particular individual? You have an excellent VO2 max, 55.2 milliliters per kilograms over a minute. Many people who have passed this test have about a 38 kilograms per minute. That's their VO2 max. So her VO2 max is quite a bit higher. I have submitted some paperwork and done some research on whether VO2 max is on its own a defining factor in performance. And with so many other variables, VO2 max on its own is just simply not enough. But it is a critical energy system, and with this being a 10-minute effort, that's something we want to be very proficient at, and the subject is very proficient at. The other thing that we saw in her evaluation is through her testing that there was some really above average scores in upper body overhead pressing and in bench pressing, which does have some ergonomic crossover to the test itself. So we do have some great upper body strength and some really good cardiovascular output and oxygen uptake. weaknesses though, and as far as size goes, and as far as our dimensions goes, the client is light. Again, in the article, there's an article about how, the determinants of what makes a firefighter, and a lot of the female firefighters were similar height to our subject, but they were about 12 to 15 pounds heavier than our subject. So our subject is light. So for example, this will be a huge disadvantage because the dummy carry itself is 35 pounds heavier than our subject's body weight. So this subject is really battling against that. Other information, where as far as weaknesses, and this is a weakness we can't control, but this is something we've got to be aware of, is 57% of her body weight will be additional to her when she's on the treadmill, and then 38% of her body weight will be additional to her throughout all of the tests. So that's a significant amount, and that's going to use up a lot more energy. So she's going to need all of that VO2 max if she's going to be all successful. And if anything, I would think that it would probably even have to get a little bit higher, a little bit fitter. We noticed that the grip strength, looking at her grip strength, was below average for females of her age and her strength, and the functionality and the requirements of almost all the exercises, they require pull and hand over hand sequencing that will require a lot of grip strength and endurance and strength. And so not only will it have to be, the fact that it's below average is a concern, but it needs to be above average. We need great grip strength out of this subject if we're going to see some improvement, and there's a great opportunity for improvement there. Leg power, we saw fairly below average outputs on the legs, fairly low wattage on anaerobic capacity output. We saw poor, compared to average rep range, ability to do a number of reps, and as well as a max leg press was also below average. And again, this is just not going to cut it with all. It's not even the movements themselves that are going to require a lot of leg power. Like some of them do. And on my time motion analysis, I put where you're going to need, which muscle group you're going to need. But really, it's just being able to always have leverage in every area that you're in, and be able to just use your legs as leverage and strength. So we have a huge opportunity to improve by improving leg power. So the task at hand, we got 16 weeks to retest. In that time, weight gain is unlikely. So wanting to put on 8 to 12 pounds of muscle, it just isn't in the cards in that short amount of time, without the use of fishy substances, which we don't want to do. The acute adaptations will need to be focused on muscle function improvement. So increased tension, increased ability in those grip strength, in that leg strength. There's an injury analysis that's asked of this task. So, at every level, there's a risk for injury. There's a lot of materials we're dealing with. There's a lot of risks that do happen. Now, the CPAT test is very well set up in a way that does eliminate injury. So it's not like a lot of sports where they want to eliminate injury, but they just happen all the time because of the nature of